Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the NL West now. A division definitely highlighted by the Dodgers payroll alone, as they brought in all of those players from the Red Sox, Carl Crawford, Adrian Gonzalez, and Josh Beckett. Yet, there's so much room for error on that team. I think for the simple fact that it may pan out this year with all the doubt on them, I'm going to go with them. It's more of a risky pick, but it's who I see winning the division.
Yeah, well, Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez have been bouncing around, from the Red Sox to the Dodgers now, so it takes a while for them to get accustomed to the team, so they may not be as good as we think they are this year. Definitely the talent is there. I mean, there's no doubt, but maybe this year they won't be as good as they can be. I have the Giants. I think they're gonna pull it out this year with their pitching, and Tim Lincecum, he's gonna have a bounce back year.
I disagree.
Really?
I strongly disagree about Lincecum.
Really?
You saw him. I would assume you watched a little bit of him in spring training this year. He had an extremely high ERA. He didn't look like the Tim Lincecum of old that won Cy Youngs, was a perennial candidate. I think he's fallen off in years past. I
don't think he's going to be as good as he was with his amazing record, but he's definitely not going to be as bad. He had 16 losses last year or something at least. So he's going to be mediocre at worst. At worst, he's going to be mediocre, but I think he's going to get his stuff together, and he won't be great, but he won't be bad.
Well, I think what you're saying is you're kind of, with the Dodgers, you're saying, so you think the whole thing's going to work there with Crawford and Gonzalez. Tell me, if it didn't work in a place that's very friendly to left-handed hitters in Fenway Park, why would it work in Dodger Stadium?
Well, if you look at it like this, the Red Sox did not have a good locker room. You can agree with that, correct?
Yes.
The Dodgers have a much better locker room with Kemp, with Ethier.
And with money.
Yeah, exactly.
Magic Johnson leading them, yeah.
Yeah, new ownership. It's a team with positive vibes around it going into the season.
Well, I think when Gonzalez came to the Red Sox and Crawford came to the Red Sox, there were plenty of positive vibes. But I think they lost the first 9 games of that season. Yeah. They were still the best team come mid-season, but then the collapse, obviously, that we don't talk about here in Boston. But to be honest, I think I do think the Dodgers certainly have a chance, but I think with Matt Cain now being as good as he is, if Tim Lincecum can even get even a little close to what he was, I don't think he doesn't have to be as good as he was, but I think if he can get to maybe a 10-6, 3-point-something ERA, then we might be I think we're talking about the division.
See, for me, when there is only one really, really big player on a team, or one key player that the season's banking on, Kane, for example, here, it's very tough to say, I'm going to pick that team. Because there is so much of a chance that he could get injured, especially with pitchers throwing as many pitches as they are per game now. There's just so much wear and tear on those elbows and those shoulders and those arms that anything could happen to him, and it won't necessarily turn out the way it will. Especially with the even higher rates of injuries over the past 2 or 3 years. You just look, it's skyrocketed in the MLB especially. I could see him having a tough year this year. I mean, not going to jinx it or anything, but it's always tough to pick one team that is based mostly around one player.
When you have a Beard and Brian Wilson on your team, it's hard to lose. Yeah, you have to fear them. So I think that's going to be big for the Giants. It could be the turning point for them.
All right, fear the Beard, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, we're now going to move on to our MVP and Cy Young candidates. For the AL, I have Justin Verlander again, as he has been on an absolute tear over the past couple of years, Cy Young-wise there. And for MVP, I'm actually going to go with a little bit of a surprising one here. I said Dustin Pedroia. I think he's going to bring the Red Sox back from what they've been in, and that'll make him look very, very good to a lot of MVP voters. And it should be very interesting to see how, if the Red Sox do well, I have them around 85 wins myself, if that moves them into a more favorable position MVP-wise for if they have a really big player this year. What about you guys?
Well, I personally don't see that happening, but I think Pedroia's MVP season a couple of years ago was kind of a fluke to me.
He had one of the highest on-base percentages in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about every.
When you're that good of a fielder, that good of a hitter, home runs aren't everything.
Well, as Fielding says, as Moneyball says, Fielding is overrated. But to be honest,
how many championships has Moneyball won?
How much money does Moneyball have?
But how many and how many wins has produced?
Exactly.
A lot. But to be honest, to me, I think I looked at this MVP race and I saw the usuals, Harper and Strasburg, and Votto too. But that's my pick, Joey Votto, and I think it's simply because of the fact that he's going to be on a team that's going to be relying on him the entire season.
Team success is such an important factor, and I don't know if they will have the team success.
Yeah, well, I think to me, if you're talking about a guy like Joey Votto, he's playing for a team that will be gunning for a division. So because let's face it, the Reds are probably not going to have one of the better records in the end of the season. So if they get the second spot, they may miss a wild card. You never know. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to bring it every night. And guys like Strasburg and Harper, they might not have that pressure, you know. So that's just my personal opinion. That's why I think Joey Votto.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I actually picked Joey Votto too. I mean, if you look at his stats last year, he batted .337. His OPS was over 1.041, and he has the stats. And since the team has not really gone to the playoffs a lot, he's kind of overlooked. You know, you look at the teams with the best players. So, because he finished 6th in MVP voting last year, and if the Reds do well, which I think will contribute to the voting he gets, he will have a chance. But if you take a look at his stats overall and how good he is, he's actually really, really good compared to a lot of other players that we think is better than Joey Votto.
Yeah, this is the thing about what is currently the MVP race. It's not actually based on who was the most valuable player to their team. It's voted on who had the best stats, essentially. So I think if the Baseball Writers Association of America actually voted the way that it was supposed to be voted on, it would be a very different story, and I think Votto would be one of the biggest candidates. Now, Jimmy's pointing to a teleprompter for me to read, and I can't actually read what's on it, so Jimmy, if you wouldn't mind making it a little bigger for me. Turns out he's telling me to move on to a blog that we have brought to us by John Hand. It's on the Red Sox and Yankees rivalry, obviously one of the biggest in sports. Let's go to that now.
Thanks, guys. It's the greatest rivalry in sports. Anytime the Red Sox and Yankees meet, it is sure to be special. It doesn't matter whether the game is in April or September. This rivalry dates all the way back to 1918, when the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees for $100,000, so Red Sox owner Harry Frazee could fund a Broadway musical. For 86 years and many heartbreaking losses, the Red Sox had been unable to win a World Series, while their rivals won 27, more than any other team in baseball history. The Sox became perennial losers, haunted by the so-called curse of the Bambino. The bad blood between these two teams borders on hatred, unmatched in America and similar to the soccer rivalries in Europe. Fans from New York and Boston just don't like each other. Wearing pinstripes in Boston is like hitting an old lady. You just don't do it. A brawl is not uncommon when these two teams meet. In fact, some of the most famous fights in baseball history have happened between the Red Sox and Yankees. In 1976, the spaceman Bill Lee tore up his shoulder while getting sucker punched by Craig Nettles. In my lifetime, I will never forget Don Zimmer versus Pedro Martinez in 2003, or when Jason Varitek stuck his catcher's mitt in A-Rod's mug in 2004. That was a great fight. In addition to brawls, there have been some great games in this rivalry. In fact, just how many Red Sox and Yankee games have been called the greatest games ever played? Like the one-game playoff in 1978, Buckin' Bleepin' Dent's home run, Game 7 of the 2003 ALCS and Aaron Boone's walk-off clinching home run against Tim Wakefield in extra innings. Then, Game 4 of the 2004 ALCS turned it all around for the Red Sox. Down 3-0, the Sox rallied in the 9th, and then David Ortiz hits a 2-run walk-off home run in the 12th that starts 4 straight wins for Boston, earning the Sox revenge and burying the curse of the Bambino forever. Finally, for the Red Sox fans, and the best of all for the Red Sox fans, is that the Yankees choked. A reversal of fortune, making the actual World Series win over St. Louis anticlimactic. On the verge of a new season, the one thing you can count on is that the 18 games between the Red Sox and Yankees will be must-watch games in another chapter of the greatest rivalry in sports. The biggest question in 2013 is, will they be battling for last place or for first place in the AL East? My oh my, how times have changed. I'm John Hand for The Whistle.
All right, thanks, John. I definitely agree that the rivalry is definitely not as good anymore as it used to be with the teams not being as good. But we're going to move on to our Red Sox predictions for how many wins they're going to have this year. I'll start off with you, Aman.
I think this season can go 2 ways. They'll be really bad. Like last year, John Farrell will not do a good job. Or maybe he will, but just the team won't perform. And they'll be stuck with like 75 wins, 80 wins at best. Or John Farrell can really pull the team together and the team works out well. I mean, the new names work together and they have 90 wins, 85, and maybe finish third in the division or something. This team can really go 2 ways. The potential and the talent is there. It's just, just how it works out. So that's my prediction.